Captain Do-hyun Lee woke up at exactly 0500 hours, just as he had every day for the past 7 years. The small alarm clock next to his bed was the only sound in the empty outpost. He rose, made his bed with military precision, and began his day. Day 2555 of watch duty, he said to the empty room. His voice sounded rough from lack of use. He could go weeks without speaking aloud. There was no one to talk to except the computers and himself. Outpost Sigma 9 floated at the edge of human space, a metal island in the vast sea of stars. The station was built to house 300 soldiers during the war with the Varan Confederacy. Now it held only one stubborn human who refused to leave his post. Do-hyun walked to the small bathroom attached to his quarters. The face in the mirror looked older than his 42 years. Gray streaked his black hair and deep lines marked the corners of his eyes. He had been 35 when the war ended, when they had told him to come home, when he had refused. After a quick shower and a breakfast of military rations, Do-hyun began his daily routine. He walked through the empty corridors of the outpost, his footsteps echoing against the metal walls. Most sections were shut down to save power. Only the essential systems remained active: life support, long-range scanners, defense systems, and communications. The observation deck offered the best view of the border. Do-hyun stood before the large viewport, hands clasped behind his back, and stared into the darkness. Somewhere out there, beyond the invisible line that separated human space from Varan territory, were the aliens who had taken everything from him. "Computer, run daily diagnostics," he ordered. The computer's voice filled the room. "Beginning daily diagnostics. Estimated completion time, 43 minutes. While the computer worked, Do-hyun checked the long-range scanners manually. He had programmed alerts to notify him of any activity, but he preferred to verify everything himself. Trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. "Diagnostic complete," the computer announced. "All systems functioning within normal parameters. Display border activity for the past 24 hours. No recorded activity within sensor. Range of the border in the past 24 hours. Do-hyun nodded. It was the same report he received almost every day. The border had been quiet since the treaty was signed. The war was over. Everyone knew this except him. He moved to the communications console and began recording his daily report. "This is Captain Do-hyun Lee, commanding officer of Outpost Sigma 9. Date is March 17, 2192. Day 2555 of Border Watch. No activity detected in the past 24 hours. All systems operational. Requesting resupply within the next 30 days. End report." He sent the message knowing it would reach Earth Central Command in about 6 hours. They would read it, file it away, and send the supplies he requested. They had stopped trying to order him home years ago. The afternoon hours dragged by slowly. Do-hyun spent them reviewing the peace treaty for the 1,000th time. The document was stored on his personal tablet. Some sections were highlighted. Others were marked with notes. He had memorized every word, every clause, every possible loophole that the Varan might exploit. "The Varan Confederacy agrees to respect the territorial boundaries established in Section 4.3, he read aloud. The words had lost their meaning long ago, but the ritual of reading them kept him focused on his mission. As evening approached, Do-hyun prepared a simple dinner in the outpost's kitchen. The facility was designed to feed hundreds, making his solitary meals seem even more lonely. He ate quickly and efficiently, tasting nothing. After dinner came the hardest part of his day. Do-hyun went to his private quarters and sat before a small screen on his desk. He pressed a button and the recorded message began to play. A woman's face appeared on the screen. Her eyes were kind, her smile warm. Next to her sat a young girl with the same smile. "Hi, honey," the woman said. "Ha-na wanted to send you a message before your deployment. We miss you already." The little girl waved at the camera. "Hi, Daddy. When are you coming home? Mom says you're going to be a hero and protect us from the bad aliens." Do-hyun's wife gently corrected her. "Ji-young, remember what we talked about? Not all Varan are bad. Daddy is protecting everyone, including the good Varan who want peace." "Sorry." "Mom," the little girl said. "Daddy, I made you a drawing. Mom's going to send it with your next care package. It's our house with you, me, and Mom standing outside, so you can remember what's waiting for you when you come home. Ji-young smiled again. We're so proud of you, Do-hyun. Stay safe and come back to us soon. We love you. Love you, Daddy. The message ended. Do-hyun sat in silence, his face showing no emotion. He had received this message 3 days before the Varen attack on New Seoul, 3 days before a rogue Varen fleet had bypassed Earth's defenses and bombed the civilian settlement. 3 days before he lost everything that mattered. There had been no bodies to bury. Nothing left of his family but memories and this recording. Do-hyun replayed the message 2 more times before shutting it off. This was his ritual, his reminder of why he remained at his post long after the war had ended. Not because of orders or duty, but because of a promise he had made to himself as he watched the news reports of New Seoul's destruction. He would never let his guard down again. He would watch the border until his last breath, because the treaty was just words on a screen and words could not bring back the dead. Words could not be trusted. Before going to bed, Do-hyun made one final round of the outpost. He checked each system again, ensuring everything was working properly. The vast station echoed with emptiness around him, 300 quarters filled with ghosts. In the weapons control room, he ran his hand over the missile launch controls. The outpost's weapons systems remained fully operational despite the peace treaty. Earth Central had decided it was less trouble to leave them active than to argue with the stubborn captain. Just in case, he whispered to himself. As he prepared for sleep, an alert sounded from his personal console. A message from Earth Central, responding to his daily report. He opened it without interest, expecting the usual acknowledgement. Instead, he found new orders. Earth Central was sending a diplomatic team to Outpost Sigma 9. Apparently, the Varen had requested a meeting at the border, and his outpost was the designated location. For the first time in years, something stirred in Do-hyun's chest. Not hope. He had abandoned that long ago, but purpose. After 7 years of watching and waiting, the Varen were coming to him. He would be ready for them. Captain Do-hyun Lee sat rigidly at the main console of Outpost Sigma 9, his eyes fixed on the scanner display. The alert had sounded just 20 minutes ago. A ship was approaching from Varen space. His heart pounded in his chest, but his face remained calm. 7 years of solitude had taught him to control his emotions. He watched as the small dot on the scanner moved steadily toward the border. "Computer, identify approaching vessel," he ordered. The computer processed for a moment, before responding. "Vessel identified as Varen Diplomatic Shuttle Class. Size indicates capacity for 5 to 7 passengers. No weapons detected." Do-hyun frowned. A diplomatic shuttle was not what he had expected. Earth Central's message had mentioned a diplomatic team coming to the outpost, but he had assumed they would arrive from Earth first. This ship was coming directly from Varen space. "Computer, when is the Earth diplomatic team scheduled to arrive?" "Earth diplomatic team, scheduled to arrive in 7 days. 7 days, the Varen had planned this well. They would reach the outpost a week before the human diplomats. Do-hyun wondered if this was deliberate. He activated the outpost's defense systems. The weapons would not fire automatically, but they were ready if needed. Years of military training had taught him to hope for peace but prepare for treachery. The Varen ship slowed as it approached the border. It stopped precisely at the boundary line between human and Varen space, a gesture of respect or perhaps caution. A communication request appeared on the console. The Varen wanted to talk. Do-hyun hesitated, his finger hovering over the accept button. It had been 7 years since he had spoken to anyone besides Earth Central Command. He pressed the button. The screen flickered, and a Varen face appeared. Do-hyun had seen many Varen during the war, mostly in combat situations or intelligence briefings. This one was female, judging by the more vibrant colors of her scales. The iridescent patterns shifted as she moved, catching the light from her. "Ship's command center." "Greetings, Outpost Sigma 9, she said in perfect English. "This is Diplomatic Envoy Tura of the Varen Confederacy. We request permission to dock and discuss matters of mutual interest. Do-hyun studied her carefully. The Varen had scaled skin in shades of blue and green. Their eyes were large and multifaceted, more like an insect's than a human's. Yet they stood upright and had roughly humanoid shapes. Their technology had been almost equal to humanity's during the war, making them dangerous enemies. "This is Captain Do-hyun Lee," he replied, his voice rough from disuse. "This outpost does not accept diplomatic missions. The appropriate channels for Varen human communication go through Earth Central." The Varen diplomat's head tilted slightly. "Captain Lee Do-hyun," she said, using the Korean name order. "We are aware of your unique situation. Our mission specifically concerns you." Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. How much did they know about him? Why would a Varen diplomatic mission concern him specifically? "Explain," he demanded. "Some matters are best discussed in person, Captain," Tura replied. "I assure you we come in peace. Our vessel carries no weapons, and we are willing to submit to any security measures you deem necessary." Do-hyun's military training told him to refuse, to wait for the Earth diplomats, to maintain the isolation that had kept him safe for 7 years. But curiosity pulled at him. After thousands of days of nothing, something was finally happening. "Send me your crew manifest and mission parameters," he said. Tura nodded, and a data packet appeared on his console. Do-hyun opened it cautiously. The manifest listed 3 Varen, diplomatic envoy Tura, military attaché Kev, and elder counselor Nax. The mission was described simply as Reconciliation Initiative. Do-hyun ran security checks on all 3 names. Tura was a mid-level diplomat, with a clean record. Kev had served in the Varen military during the war but had no known involvement in major battles. Nax was different. His file was heavily redacted, suggesting a high-level military or political position during the war. He stared at the blank spaces in Nax's file and felt his suspicion grow. Yet after 7 years of waiting, the enemy had finally come to him. This might be his only chance to look them in the eyes and ask why. Why New Seoul? Why the civilians? Why his family? "Prepare to dock at Auxiliary Bay 3, he told Tura. "You will remain in your ship until I complete security protocols." "Understood, Captain. We appreciate your accommodation." The communication ended, and Do-hyun moved quickly. He activated the outpost's security robots, programming them to escort the Varen visitors and monitor them at all times. Then he went to his quarters and retrieved his sidearm. The weight of the weapon felt familiar in his hand. As the Varen ship docked, Do-hyun watched through the security cameras. The sleek vessel attached to the outpost with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. He waited 10 minutes before heading to the auxiliary bay, giving the sensors time to scan for any hidden weapons or devices. "Computer, report security scan results. No weapons detected. 3 Varen life forms aboard the vessel. Air quality normal. No toxins or pathogens detected." Do-hyun nodded and entered the airlock that would take him to the auxiliary bay. His heart raced, but his hand was steady on his weapon. The door slid open, and he stepped through. The Varen ship was smaller than he had expected. Its smooth curved hull reflected the lights of the docking bay. The entry ramp extended slowly, and 3 figures appeared at the top. Tura led the way, her diplomatic robes flowing around her tall, slender form, but behind her came a male Varen in a simple military uniform without insignia. This must be Kev. He moved with the alert posture of a soldier, eyes scanning the area professionally. The 3rd Varen moved slowly, supported by a hovering mobility device. Elder Nax was clearly ancient by Varen standards. His scales had faded to a dull gray blue, and his movements were stiff and deliberate. Do-hyun kept his distance, his hand resting near his sidearm. "Welcome to Outpost Sigma 9, he said formally. "You will be escorted to the conference room. Do not attempt to access any systems or enter unauthorized areas." Tura bowed slightly, a gesture she must have learned from human diplomatic protocols. "We understand, Captain. We are grateful for this opportunity." As the security robots moved into position around the visitors, Do-hyun studied Elder Nax more closely. There was something familiar about him, something that tugged at Do-hyun's memory. Had he seen this Varen before? Perhaps in military intelligence reports? The elderly Varen met his gaze, and Do-hyun saw something unexpected in those alien eyes. Not hostility or diplomatic caution, but what appeared to be deep sorrow. "Captain Lee," Nak said, his voice raspy with age, "I have waited many years for this meeting." Do-hyun felt a surge of unease. "You know me?" "I know what I did to you," the old Varen replied, "and I have come to make amends, if such a thing is possible." Before Do-hyun could respond, Tura intervened, smoothly. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in a more appropriate setting, Elder Nax." Do-hyun nodded stiffly, his mind racing. What did Nax mean? What had he done? After 7 years of isolation and unanswered questions, Do-hyun was about to face something he had not prepared for: the truth. The conference room of Outpost Sigma 9 had been designed to hold 20 people comfortably. With only 4 present, it felt vast and empty. Captain Do-hyun Lee sat on one side of the long table, facing the 3 Varen visitors. Security robots stood at attention along the walls, their sensors trained on the aliens. Do-hyun had not offered refreshments or exchanged pleasantries. 7 years of solitude had stripped away his social graces, leaving only the hard core of a soldier. He stared at Elder Nax, waiting for an explanation. "Speak," he said simply. Tura, the diplomat, cleared her throat. "Captain Lee, we understand your caution. The war between our peoples caused great suffering on both sides, but the Varen Confederacy is committed to healing those wounds and building a lasting peace." Do-hyun's expression remained cold. "I did not ask for diplomatic speeches. Your Elder Nax said he had something to tell me specifically." Kev, the military attaché, shifted uncomfortably. His hand moved toward Nax in a protective gesture, but the old Varen waved it away. "Let him speak his mind," Nax said to his companions. "He has earned that right." The elderly Varen turned his faded eyes to Do-hyun. "Captain Lee, I was the commander who ordered the attack on New Seoul." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Do-hyun felt as if all oxygen had been sucked from the room. His hand moved to his sidearm without conscious thought. Tura tensed but raised her hands in a placating gesture. "Please, hear him out," she urged. "He has traveled a great distance to make amends." The security robots detected Do-hyun's movement and stepped forward, awaiting orders. Do-hyun held up his hand, stopping them, but kept his eyes fixed on Nax. "You," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You gave the order to bomb a civilian settlement." Nax nodded slowly, the movement obviously painful for his aged body. "I did, and I have lived with that decision every day since." Do-hyun's mind filled with images of New Seoul. It had been a beautiful place, a shining example of human expansion among the stars. His home, the place where Ji-young had planted flowers in window boxes to remind her of Earth, where Hana had learned to ride her first bicycle in the low-gravity recreation dome. Why? The single word contained 7 years of pain and rage. Nak seemed to sink further into his mobility device. The attack on New Seoul was not authorized by the Varen leadership. It was a rogue operation, carried out by myself and several other military hardliners. He paused, his breathing labored. Kev offered him a small device that delivered some kind of medication, and after using it, Nax continued. "We believed that a decisive strike against civilian targets would force humans to surrender quickly, preventing a prolonged conflict. We were wrong. Terribly wrong." Do-hyun's hands clenched into fists. 300,000 civilians died. Children died. "I know," Nax said. "When the Varen leadership discovered what we had done, most of the conspirators were executed immediately. I was spared only because of my age and past service." The old Varen's voice was filled with shame. "I was placed under house arrest for the remainder of the war." Tura spoke up, her voice gentle but firm. "When the war ended, Elder Nax insisted on facing justice for his actions. He has spent years working with our new government to implement Reforms that will prevent such atrocities from ever happening again. Do-hyun barely heard her. He was staring at Nax, trying to reconcile this frail old creature with the monster who had haunted his nightmares for 7 years. "What do you want? From me?" he asked. Nax lifted his eyes to meet Do-hyun's gaze directly. "Nothing. I come to offer you something instead. The truth. An explanation, though not an excuse. And the chance to execute justice, if that is what you desire." The room fell silent. Kev tensed visibly, but did not interfere. Tura watched with concern evident in her large eyes. "You would let me kill you?" Do-hyun asked, his hand resting on his weapon. "If it would bring you peace." Nax replied simply. Do-hyun drew his sidearm and pointed it at Nax. The security robots moved forward, programmed to prevent violence, but Do-hyun overrode them with a quick voice command. The weapon felt heavy in his hand. "Tell me everything," he demanded. "Every detail of your decision. Why New Seoul? Why that day?" For the next hour, Nax spoke without pause. He described the factional conflicts within the Varen military leadership during the early days of the war. He named the other conspirators who had agreed to the attack plan. He explained how they had accessed the codes to send a small battle group past the human defenses. "We chose New Seoul because it was a symbol of human expansion," Nax explained, "and because it was far enough from Earth that we believed the response would be delayed." His voice grew softer. "We did not consider the lives we were ending. We saw only strategic advantages." As Nax spoke, Do-hyun kept his weapon trained on the old Varen, but with each passing minute, his arm grew heavier. The monster of his nightmares was being replaced by something more complex and in some ways more disturbing, a flawed being who had made a terrible choice. "What happened to the others?" Do-hyun asked. "The other conspirators." Kev spoke for the first time. "All executed. I was part of the security detail at their trials." His voice was gruff but clear. "I witnessed each execution personally. Justice was done, Captain Lee." Do-hyun lowered his weapon slightly. "Then why are you here? Why now, after 7 years?" Tura leaned forward. "Because of you, Captain. Your vigil at this outpost has become known throughout Varen space. Some see it as an act of defiance, others as a symbol of human determination. But for Elder Nax it became something else. A living reminder of his greatest sin." Nax nodded weakly. "I could not find peace knowing that you stand eternal watch at our border. Your vigil has become a symbol among our people. A reminder of our greatest shame." He paused. "I am dying, Captain Lee. My condition is terminal. Before I go, I wish to face you, to give you the truth, and the choice of what to do with it." Do-hyun holstered his weapon slowly. 7 years of purpose threatened to collapse under this unexpected confrontation. He had prepared for many scenarios. During his long watch, renewed hostilities, treaty violations, even full-scale invasion. But not this, not the truth. "I need time," he said finally. "You will remain in guest quarters under guard while I verify your story." Tura nodded. "We understand. We have brought data files that corroborate Elder Nax's account. Military records, trial transcripts, execution orders, all are available for your review." Do-hyun stood abruptly. "The security robots will escort you to your quarters. Do not attempt to communicate with anyone outside this outpost." As the Varen were led away, Do-hyun remained in the conference room alone. He stared at the empty chairs across from him, feeling the weight of this new knowledge pressing down on his shoulders. For 7 years he had waited at the border, watching for an enemy that might never come. Now the enemy had delivered himself, not as a warrior but as a penitent, not with weapons but with truth. Do-hyun did not know what to do with this gift, or this burden. For 3 days, Captain Do-hyun Lee barely slept. He confined the Varen delegation to guest quarters while he researched their claims. The data files they had brought contained military records, trial transcripts, and execution orders, all supporting Nax's confession. Do-hyun sat in the control room, surrounded by multiple screens displaying information. He compared the Varen records with human intelligence reports from the war. Everything matched. The attack on New Sol had indeed been a rogue operation by Varen hardliners, most of whom had been executed by their own government once the truth emerged. He found records of Nax's arrest and trial. The old commander had been spared execution due to his age and previous service record, but had been stripped of all honors and placed under house arrest for the remainder of the war. Most surprising were the files showing Nax's activities after the peace treaty. The elderly Varen had volunteered to work with war victims, had donated his family fortune to reconstruction efforts, and had helped draft new military protocols designed to prevent unauthorized strikes against civilian targets. None of this changed. What had happened to New Sol? None of it brought back Ji Young's smile or Hana's laughter. But it complicated Do Hyun's understanding of the enemy he had watched for 7 years. On the 4th day, Do Hyun called for the Varen delegation to meet him on the observation deck. This was his favorite place on the outpost, where the viewport offered a clear view of the stars and the invisible border that separated human space from Varen territory. The security robots escorted Tura, Kev, and Nax to the observation deck. Nax looked weaker than before, his scales duller and his movements more labored. The old Varen's health was clearly failing. Do Hyun stood with his back to the viewport, hands clasped behind him in a military stance. "I have reviewed your records," he said without preamble. "They appear to be authentic." Tura nodded. "They are, Captain. We would not deceive you, especially on matters of such importance." "Why now?" Do Hyun asked. "The war has been over for 7 years. Why come to me now?" Kev glanced at Nax, who answered in a voice barely above a whisper. "Because my time is ending, Captain Lee, and because your vigil continues." Nax gestured toward a data tablet that Do Hyun had placed on a nearby console. "Those records show that justice was served to those responsible for New Sol except for me. I survived when the others did not." The old Varen's multifaceted eyes reflected the starlight from the viewport. "As long as you remain at this border, as long as you stand guard against a threat that has been largely eliminated, there is no true peace between our peoples." Do Hyun frowned. "You think I'm the only human who distrusts the Varen?" "No," Tura interjected. "But you have become a symbol, Captain. Your solitary watch has become known throughout both human and Varen space. Some humans see you as a hero, others as a relic of a painful past. Among my people, many see your vigil as an accusation, a reminder of our shame." Do Hyun turned to look out at the stars. For 7 years, this view had been his constant companion. The vastness of space, the pinpricks of light, the knowledge that somewhere beyond that invisible line were the beings who had taken everything from him. "I have spent 7 years here for one purpose," he said quietly. "To ensure that what happened to my family never happens to anyone else. I watched this border because I believed that peace was a lie." Tura stepped forward. "And now, Captain?" Do Hyun gestured to a data terminal where he had compiled his findings. "The war is over. The truth is documented. Justice has been served to those responsible, except for you, Nax." The elderly Varen nodded solemnly. "I am prepared to accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate, Captain. My life for your closure." A heavy silence filled the observation deck. Do Hyun thought of Ji Young's gentle smile and Hana's laughter. Would taking Nax's life bring them back? Would it honor their memory? Or would it simply perpetuate the cycle of violence that had claimed them? The security robots waited silently, their sensors tracking everyone in the room. They would not interfere unless Do Hyun commanded them to. Do Hyun closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of his decision. When he opened them, he looked directly at Nax. "Tell me about your family," he said. The question seemed to surprise everyone in the room, especially Nax. "My family?" "Yes. Did you have one? Do you have one now?" Nax blinked slowly. "I had a maid of 60 years. She died during the war, not in battle, but from illness. We had 3 offspring, all of whom served in non-combat roles. I have 7 grand offspring." He paused. "They do not visit. My actions brought shame to our lineage. Do-hyun nodded, processing this information. My wife was a botanist, he said suddenly. She studied how earth plants could adapt to colony environments. My daughter wanted to be a pilot. He had not spoken of them like this to anyone in years. They were both at home when the bombs fell. Kev lowered his head, a gesture of respect, or perhaps shame. Tura's scales rippled with emotion. Nax remained still, accepting Do-hyun's words like physical blows. I could kill you, Do-hyun continued. It would be simple. The robots would not stop me if I ordered them to stand down. His hand moved to his sidearm. For 7 years I have imagined facing the one responsible for New Seoul. In my mind, I pulled the trigger every time. Nax straightened as much as his aged body allowed. I understand, Captain. Do-hyun's hand rested on his weapon, but he did not draw it. Killing you would change nothing. It would not bring back the dead. It would not undo the past. He paused. And it would dishonor the peace that others have worked to build. The tension in the room shifted. Tura's posture relaxed slightly, while Kev remained alert, but less rigid. What then, Captain Lee? Nax asked. What is your judgment? Do-hyun removed his hand from his weapon. You will live, Nax. You will live with what you have done as I have lived with what was done to me. He turned to face the viewport again, looking out at the border he had guarded for so long. But your offer of justice is not entirely without merit. There is something I would ask of you. Name it, Nax said. Tell your story. Do-hyun replied. Not just to me, but to everyone, human and Varen alike. Tell them what happened, why it happened, and what it cost. Make sure that the truth is known, so that such decisions are never made again. Tura stepped forward. Captain, Elder Nax has already agreed to participate in the joint Human-Varen Historical Commission. His testimony will be recorded for future generations. That's not enough, Do-hyun said. I want him to come with me to Earth, to speak directly to the survivors and families of New Seoul, to face them as he has faced me. Kev made a surprised sound. You would return to Earth? After all this time? Do-hyun had not realized his own decision until the words left his mouth. Return to Earth? Leave his post? The idea was both terrifying and strangely liberating. Yes, he said. It's time. Nax bowed his head. I accept your terms, Captain Lee, though I fear their reception of me will be far less merciful than yours has been. Do-hyun did not smile, but his expression softened slightly. Perhaps. But facing the consequences of our actions is part of being sentient, is it not? Human or Varen? As the stars shone steadily through the viewport, Captain Do-hyun Lee made his choice, not a choice of vengeance or forgiveness, but a choice to move forward. 1 month later, the joint Human-Varen ship Concordia entered the solar system. Earth Central Command was not expecting the vessel. Their confusion quickly turned to alarm when they identified one of the passengers as Captain Do-hyun Lee, the infamous border sentinel who had refused all orders to return home for 7 years. Even more surprising were his companions, 3 Varen, including an elderly former military commander. Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Fleet personally handled the communication. Her face appeared on the Concordia's main screen, her expression a mixture of shock and caution. Captain Lee, she said, this is unexpected. We had no communication that you were leaving your post. Do-hyun stood straight in front of the camera. He wore a clean uniform, though not his full military dress. Admiral, request permission to land at New Seoul Memorial Spaceport with my Varen companions. Chen's eyebrows rose. New Seoul Memorial? Captain, that's a sensitive location, especially with Varen visitors. I'm aware, Admiral. That is precisely why we must land there. The Admiral studied him carefully. May I ask the purpose of this visit? Do-hyun moved aside, allowing Tura to step into view. The Varen diplomat bowed respectfully to the human Admiral. Admiral Chen, I am diplomatic envoy Tura. We come on a mission of truth and reconciliation. Elder Nax, former Varen military commander, wishes to speak directly to the survivors of New Seoul. Chen's expression hardened. Nax? The Nax who? The one who ordered the attack, Do-hyun confirmed. Yes. A long silence followed. Admiral Chen clearly had many questions, but her military training kept her focused on the immediate situation. Stand by, Concordia. I need to consult with Earth Central. The screen went dark. Do-hyun turned to his companions. Tura stood calm and composed while Kev remained alert near the elderly Nax. The former commander's health had worsened during their journey, but he had refused any delay. They will not deny us, Do-hyun said with certainty. The Admiral is just following protocol. Tura nodded. Your people have reason to be cautious. We understand. An hour passed before Admiral Chen returned to the screen. Her expression was now carefully neutral. Permission granted, Concordia. You will be met by a diplomatic team and security detail. Please prepare Elder Nax for medical examination upon arrival. Our scans show his condition may be critical. Do-hyun acknowledged the order, and the communication ended. He turned to Nax, who sat in a specially designed chair on the bridge. They will help you, he told the elderly Varen. Human medical technology may be able to treat your condition. Nax shook his head slowly. My time is ending, Captain Lee. I made peace with that long ago. I wish only to complete this journey before I go. The landing at New Seoul Memorial Spaceport was tense but orderly. A small crowd had gathered, mostly officials and media, held back behind security barriers. As promised, a diplomatic team and medical staff waited on the landing pad. Do-hyun led the Varen delegation down the ramp. He walked slowly beside Nax, who refused to use his mobility device for this moment, insisting on walking on his own 2 feet. Tura and Kev followed closely, ready to support the elder if needed. The human delegation approached. A woman stepped forward, her formal suit marking her as a high government official. Captain Lee, I am Director Park of the Colonial Restoration Committee. Welcome home. Do-hyun saluted out of habit, though he knew it was unnecessary. Director, thank you for allowing this meeting. Park's eyes moved to Nax, her expression revealing nothing of her thoughts. Elder Nax, your request to address the survivors of New Seoul has been approved with conditions. The event will take place tomorrow at the Memorial Center, if your health permits. Nax bowed deeply, the movement clearly painful. Thank you. Director, I am ready whenever you decide. The medical team approached with a hover stretcher, but Nax waved them away. I will walk to your medical facility. It is the least I can do on this soil. The media captured everything. By evening, the news had spread throughout Earth and the colonies. The lonely sentinel of the border had returned, bringing with him one of the architects of the New Seoul tragedy. In the Earth Central Medical Facility, human doctors examined Nax while Do-hyun waited outside. Tura and Kev had been escorted to diplomatic quarters. After an hour, a doctor emerged from the examination room. Captain Lee, Elder Nax is asking for you. Do-hyun entered the medical room. Nax lay on a bed surrounded by advanced monitoring equipment. The old Varen looked small and frail against the white sheets. The doctors tell me I have perhaps 2 days, Nax said without preamble. Enough time. Do-hyun pulled a chair beside the bed. They can't help you? The damage is too extensive. My body has been failing for years. Nax's multifaceted eyes fixed on Do-hyun. I have lived long enough to face justice. That is sufficient. Do-hyun nodded slowly. The Memorial Center is preparing for tomorrow. Many survivors will attend. And you, Captain Lee? Will you stand with me or against me? The question caught Do-hyun by surprise. He had not considered his own role in the coming event. For 7 years he had stood as a symbol of human vigilance and distrust. Now he had brought the enemy to Earth's doorstep. I will stand beside you, he said finally. Not in support of what you did, but in support of what you are trying to do now. The next day, the New Seoul Memorial Center was filled to capacity. Survivors, family members of the deceased, government officials, and media representatives all gathered in the Great Hall. At the center stood a simple platform with a clear barrier between the speaker and the audience, a necessary security precaution. Do-hyun helped Nax to the platform. The elderly Varen stood straight despite his pain, facing the sea of human faces, many showing anger, grief, or suspicion. "My name is Nax," he began, his voice amplified throughout the hall. "7 years ago, I gave the order to attack this colony." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some shouted in anger, but most listened, in stunned silence. For the next hour, Nax spoke without notes or hesitation. He explained the decision process that had led to the attack, named his co-conspirators, and described his actions afterward. He offered no excuses, only truth. When he finished, the hall was silent. Then an elderly woman stepped forward. "My daughter and her family died that day," she said, her voice steady. "Why should we accept your apology now?" Nax bowed his head. "You should not. I do not ask for forgiveness, only that you know the truth, so that such mistakes are never repeated." Others came forward asking questions, expressing grief and anger. Nax answered each one honestly, even when the answers were painful. Standing beside the platform, Do-hyun watched the exchange with mixed emotions. This was not forgiveness or reconciliation. Those might never come. But it was truth. It was acknowledgement. It was a step forward. 3 days later, Nax died peacefully in the Earth Central Medical Facility. By his request, his remains were returned to Varen space for traditional ceremonies. 1 week after that, Earth Central announced the creation of a joint human-Varen monitoring station at the former border. Not a military checkpoint, but an embassy of cooperation. Captain Do-hyun Lee was offered the position of human liaison, which he accepted after much consideration. On his last day on Earth, Do-hyun visited the new Seoul Memorial Garden. He placed flowers at the monument bearing the names of the fallen, including Ji-young and Hana. "I'm leaving my post," he said softly to their memory. "But I'm not abandoning my watch. I'm just changing how I keep it." The garden was beautiful, with plants from both Earth and the colony worlds. Soon it would include a section of Varen flora as well, a living symbol of the difficult but necessary path forward. Do-hyun had not forgiven. The pain of his loss would always remain with him. But he had found a new purpose, helping to build a lasting peace that would honor the memory of those lost in the war. As he left the garden, he noticed a young Varen standing respectfully at the entrance. It was Kev, the military attaché. "Captain Lee," Kev said with a formal bow. "The shuttle is ready when you are." Do-hyun nodded. "Thank you, Kev. Let's go." Together they walked toward the spaceport, a human and a Varen, moving beyond the borders that had once divided them.